Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing a video, can Apex Legends be played solo? The fast answer is there used to be a solo mode a very long time ago, but that has been removed from the game and all we have is trios and duos. Now in this you can click no fill teammates and you can remove that, and then you play Apex Legends solo. So technically yes, you can play Apex Legends solo, but you are going to be facing against squads. So today's video, what I decided to do is I queued solo and I got a bunch of 1v3s and also 1v6. Disclaimer, I didn't win any of these rounds, but I did put up a pretty big fight. And this is also whenever I was feeling under the weather, I decided to kind of solo queue because I wasn't really playing with squads because I wasn't feeling all too great, but I'm definitely feeling better now. So I want to put together the thought process and cover where my thinking was in all this gameplay and break it down. How do you isolate a team and how do you win a 1v3? Considering that's really your only option whenever you're solo queuing. That was also one of the tips that I brought in Apex Legends, was how do you win your 1v3s? And also, just dropping hot and solo queuing is also beneficial to help you improve. So let's break that down. It's going to be a long video, disclaimer, very long video, but hopefully it's informative and it helps you improve on Apex Legends. Let's get into it. Okay, like we mentioned, the fun part. Let's talk about all of this gameplay. So some of it's going to have audio and some of it's not, because some of it I was recording with music in the background, or I might have been in a potential call, and some of it, like you see here, I just was playing solo. So initially I was playing Wattson. What I did is I spawned down below and I fenced off my areas trying to prep for 1v3. So I did manage to isolate at least two here, but I back up and try to use my fences to reposition. So I heal up, knowing that even if I get shoved by two people, I'm not going to win that fight. So I instantly reposition and try to get an angle on this. I didn't think they were going to be right on top of each other, so I was expecting to kind of push. But luckily here, I kind of have them isolated because of the fence. For some reason in pubs, I guess casuals don't really know what to do against fences, so it feels like they've never seen them before because Wattson has not picked at a high pick rate. So they literally backed up from it as if they've never seen it before, and because of that, I managed to isolate one. So there goes one down. And the Bloodhound, for some reason, just didn't catch me out up here, and now I won that 1v2. So solid pick up there. I instantly just try to loot as much materials as I can, and I go right back to the gen. And I did that as a reset, but then the Octane jumped immediately down on me, so I had to win this fight here. I did a lot of entry damage and I get shredded, and all I can do now is literally hold and wait, so I reset. I know that because the person I saw there was not an Octane, I knew that that wasn't good. I dropped down trying to fence off. I see there's fences here. I know now that's going to be a death trap, so I instantly decided to go back. The hard part about 1v3ing is trying to make the right call and the right decision, so I fenced off trying to see if it'll work again, if they'll be overwhelmed by me essentially putting pressure. And I know there's a team above, and I know if I could get them to fight, which I hear that above now, I decide to make a potential play. I feel like if I climb up directly behind them, all I'm going to do is get shredded, and I'm going to see a team of potential 3 up there, and so I flank. And it does pay off because at least I have this. I pray for the armor swap. Luckily it's not broken, and that buys me some time here. It's a PK, so I can't really push, but I do manage to one mag the horizon there, and I peek back out and I get the other, but I cannot fight anymore at this point, and the best thing I can do is just pray. So once I realize he's not pushing, I make sure to get the bat off, but I do hear the res, and so the res means that I pretty much have to push and make a play off this. So the Pathfinder does run him, I realize he is getting thirded, I finish him, and I decide to just run through the fence because it's the only cover I do have, and I try to reset and heal. The fuse does get hit, so all I can do here is just hold and just pray for the best outcome. Maybe they'll get thirded and I try to back up, because I don't think the fuse is going to run right through those fences again, and the arcs do provide cover, and those grenades are really, really helpful in winning a 1v3 or in any gunfight. They just provide pressure and presence and holding out somebody and making sure they do not push. So at this point, all I'm doing is resetting, trying to gather as much resources as possible. Do I use the Lobo ult? I try to, and I kind of panic because I hear audio and I hear them pushing. The goal for me there was to use a Lobo ult, but I screwed up and picked up a weapon instead. So I see him here, and I'm holding, and I'm waiting for him to... Oh, watching that back, I have no idea how he got up there. Honestly, I heard the audio last second, and he just appeared out of nowhere. And so I'm trying to get the swap here, because I'm expecting the enemy to show up at any second. And this is where I ultimately die. I just have to win this next 1v3. Out of all the teams out here, I'm not going to be rescued by getting into the mix of it. And if you're trying to win in solos, you have to just try to get lost and make them think you're part of the squad and team. So I try to fence my way through here. I put my gen to avoid getting naded. I think the mistake I made here, honestly, was wide peeking that. I was hoping that I might be able to catch one out, and I wide peek again, and then it's pretty much my downfall here. If I didn't wide peek, I am getting pushed on the left side. You see that does happen here. I get pushed on the left. I think if I held the building and I waited for one to make a mistake, my mistake was wide peeking this. And when I wide peeked it, I was 100% going for the 1v1. And even if I won against the fuse and I lost half of my HP, I would have lost the next encounter. There's no way I would have clutched that out. So next here, there's no audio on it, but this is a fight that I won as a Loba. So this is a different loadout solo queuing. I was on the alt account because I was plummeting my main account. I plummet my main account a lot. By the way, a lot. And so I've been playing on the alt account, and it's also high ranked. I think it's diamond because I used it just recently. So technically the MMR is just equally as high. I'm going to showcase that because I literally run into a full Pred team on the alt account. So this is pretty much the same MMR as my main. So I'm not really too worried about it. But I was tanking my main account. And like I do that all the time for content. So sorry to derail this. So as we see here from the footage, I'm taking my time as a Loba, but there is a team here. And all I can do is, I think they're isolated. I think I do catch on to that this Wraith is by herself, so I decide to push this. The goal is to try to win your 1v1s, which I do here, once I catch them out. So I go ahead and take height, and the reason why I do that and I don't stay for the armor swap is I can sell, and I need to figure out where the other two teammates are. Do I have time? My ult is going to be up in about 9%, so I can utilize that to gather more resources. So I could wait here, or I could finish in Thirst. But at this point, I'm just holding and waiting, and I saw the guy over to the right, and it makes me feel confident over here if that guy is over on the right by himself that I can push here and gather some loot. Now, the downside of not thirsting is if the person one has a self-revive or the teammate does go over and res without you knowing, then you go into the next engagement not knowing. So that's also a mistake here, because honestly, I should have gone back and just finished him and put the ult that way. But it didn't cost me this fight, but it's just something to really highlight is that if you're by yourself, you need to kind of thirst. These guys were really separate, and that's always the goal that you want. So this guy demanded a 1v1. I gladly took it, and now I can utilize his bubble for my own benefit here. So now I get to bubble dance. Get to bubble dance back and forth, and I get to get the full heal. The lifeline's up above, but I'm kind of going back and forth, and luckily she's not landing her shots, so that's a W, and she's just standing there, and she takes a huge amount of damage, which screams to push. Now, one thing that some Lobas do that's a main mistake is that they will queue up. That would have been a very big mistake because it takes way too much time to pull out your weapon, and then this lifeline is just dancing with me here. That clutches out the 1v3 because they were all isolated one at a time. I do die here because I get thirded. Now, there's not much you can do about this. The best thing I could have done is actually gone for the armor swap first, which I hesitate on, and you're going to hear the third party. Well, you won't hear it because there's no audio, but nonetheless, there's going to be a third party here, and I didn't heal up. That's my big mistake. I got too comfortable thinking like I had all this time, and as a solo, I should have queued out and just ran. So let's see how long this takes. I had way too much time on this. It was very generous, the amount of time that I had, and I should be dead. Let's skip ahead just a little bit. No, actually, okay, so it wasn't that one. I make the mistake later. So when we look here, I pushed, and I got the damage. I have the health advantage on this person, but I screw up and whiff my shots there. Now, there's two things that I could have... I mean, honestly, if I didn't whiff my shots, I would have been in a better spot. I instantly retreated. What I honestly should have done is just kind of stayed. Because at this point, I'm trying to go for the armor swap, but it's little too late, and especially when I know there's a team there. So I should have just held my ground, because if I whiff my shots, I whiff my shots, and that's kind of the reality of it. Once you whiff and you have the advantage and you don't clutch it out, that's where you need to go back and improve your aim, right? Now here's another 1v3 that's pretty clean, and there is audio for this one. So I get my shots and I isolate them, and I actually, before this clip, I led in with a lot of time kind of stalking a little bit, kind of making sure there was no other teams nearby. I arc to put the pressure to make sure they don't push, and I know that there's two on the left and there's one on the right. So I know you don't see in the footage, but there is one guy on the right. There he is over there. Actually, that was in lava, but he's over in the building. But now I have a 1v2 scenario. I think this guy ends up leaving, surprisingly. I think that the pressure I'm putting is just a lot for them. Yeah, this guy I think ends up like rage quitting. He was looking for me and just did not know where I was at. And I think he just ends up leaving. I think he throws himself off the map, which is pretty absurd. So I've isolated. See the guy over on the right? This is why squads need to play together. Quite literally. If you have one person who can tear apart your team by isolating them, the biggest tip I can give is don't isolate yourself. Probably one of the worst mistakes that you can make. So this guy is completely isolated. I see the guy on the right was a Watson, which I know doesn't have the mobility to catch up to me unless she just charged at me. This guy threw himself off the edge. I thought the other guy timed out, and I'm super confused at what's happening. So I'm going to skip ahead because all I do was thirst this guy, and now I have a solid 1v1. So we skip ahead a little bit here. I have all the time in the world to do whatever I want. For some reason, this guy just doesn't push out. Now, there's a difference between how I played Watson initially and how this person is playing Watson. No knock against it. If you play way too passive, you pretty much allow anybody to just kind of run up on you and pretty much control the situation. You need to play passive aggressive. So you need to put fences and be aggro and take positioning, and so you can kind of duck and weave. So what I'm doing, because I play Watson, I know this. Look at this Watson. She's so confused. She heard the audio from there, but now she hears the audio over there, and then boom, just clean it up. So every Watson who's watching this video, don't do what this Watson is doing. I literally was able to run circles around this Watson because of that. So don't make that mistake. It's very detrimental. If you're playing a defensive character, play passive aggressive. So in this fight here, we're seeing this is a 1v2. I isolate this team out, and I hit fire, and now I have a solid 1v1, which is strong. And see how I'm getting into the mix of it here? My goal was just to get into, and this guy's pretty much just running at that point, which is a clear sign that you're going to have the engagement and the win. So what happened here is that they were fighting another team, and I decided to third it. And even as a solo, having the advantage of getting into the mix of it, the other team doesn't know what happened. And because the other team doesn't know what happened, they may think you're a full squad of 3, and that's how you play it solo. You got to give the illusion that you are a massive team and that you have a lot of confidence. If you roll up with a lot of confidence, you're going to do a lot better. Now, the downside is whenever you drop initially, if you have like a trail, like a pred trail, for example, people will just jump on you and punch you out. That is the downside, unfortunately. There's not much you can solve for that there. So here is the footage what we have with Horizon. I think this is a 1v6. I see them fighting and I isolate, and I have a 30-30 repeater. Range helps immensely whenever you're solo queuing, having that range to get your initial shots. So I'm just pretty much doing as much damage as I can. The more damage you do and get into the mix of it, they don't know if you're part of the squad or if they're fighting somebody else. And so if they don't have intel on you, they don't know. For all they know, that was a nice shot there, you're just part of the group. So that was a nice cleanup. And I do push forward because I know now it's a 3v1. If I get into the mix of this, I just have to act like I'm part of the squad. Push confidence. So now I know that this team is also in shambles because they're down here, down below. I'm anticipating it's at least only 1 or 2 people alive, which is why I'm playing so confidently. I can roll it up because I'm confident. Now the downside is that another team showed up, and I'm like, well, that's not part of the same squad, and so I instantly back up. I get 1 down, but I know there's another squad there, and I'm stuck in between here. So the best thing you can do, and I do end up dying here once I get the full cleanup, and I'm playing a little aggro. I should have retreated and also done the same thing to try to find information, but all I do is just pretty much isolate this poor squad, which is like a good thing to do. One, I isolate them and I manage to kill them, but the downside here is the punishment you're going to get, because if you wipe it up, the other squad, even if they're a full squad, is going to roll up right behind you. So if you give the clear indication that there is no more fighting and that they can roll up, they're definitely going to do so. Think of what you would do in a third party and with that information. So let's skip ahead here just a little bit, because all I'm doing is I'm also looking for information. This is where, if you're solo queuing Bloodhound, they can be really strong with their scans. Recon characters are really strong, but remember, mobility is also important. It's why when you have all these characters and they're all in squad play, they all benefit together, but you're missing a large piece of the puzzle. So it's why Horizon, I started using her quite a bit, just because I can fly up in the air and gather as much intel information. So I didn't need to move forward, but let's see the mistake that I made here. I think I just overextended, yeah. This was confusing. I didn't know who I was fighting, especially when that was a rev push, and who this revenant is a part of. This team clearly pushed, and I didn't know how much timer they had left, and so all I can do is just really run and just reassess. And then it just causes my ultimate downfall, I believe. Let's skip just a little bit ahead, because I'm holding here, and I actually get quite a few down. Let's take a look at that. So this is a mistake. I get a little bit too excited because I get this guy knocked, because I can see he's looting. A little bit of the unfortunate control of the looting side. I just saw that he's trying to loot downside of it, but then at this point, yeah, I get 1 down, but I'm stuck between 2 different teams. So the best thing I could have done is just run past the guy and don't get greedy. So another tip I can provide is do not get greedy when you're playing, because if you get greedy, and I'm to do it again here just because I'm like, oh, let me secure the kill. There's 2 things here. Remember how I mentioned you want to secure your kills? Yes. But remember, when you secure those kills, the information that you're providing to the enemy team. So I think the best thing I could have done was just retreat and assess, because I still don't understand or know what's going on here in this encounter. I'm just guessing. I see one guy is isolated. I think the other two people could be fighting, but I don't know where their positioning is at. And if you're solo queuing, or even when you're with your squad, major tip, know where people are at. When you know where people are at, you're going to make better informed decisions. And I think in a second, I'm literally going to get shot in the back as I'm pushing on this without intel or information. It's not playing poorly. It's playing smart. You just have to play smart and understand when you can push and when you cannot push. So let's skip ahead just a little bit. Okay, there you see, and I didn't, it happened so quick. I didn't even need to switch too far ahead. And then all that happens at this point is I get chased. I get pressured out. I'm sitting here for far too long, and I need to reposition and go to zone because the zone is closing anyways. And I decide to run, and I do get chased. I'm getting hard chased, by the way. They're literally right behind me. And I fly forward thinking that there's not another team here, but the team that was on height over on the left side has engaged and started pushing forward. And so I run into this team, and I'm like, well, that sucks. And then the team up above, there they are, and they fly right at me. So essentially, I got sandwiched between two different teams, so very unfortunate. Now, let's skip a little forward here, and we look at this next encounter here. So this next encounter, I actually do not remember this one, so this one's going to be a little bit of a surprise to me. Let's see what I did. So I dropped taunt. Okay. I'm following. And, oh, that's a free kill, because this guy's just standing there. So now at least I know it is a 2v, or 1v2 scenario. So I'm confident about staying here, especially with this Haraya, or Valkyrie trying to fight me here. Valkyrie gives me, I believe this is a hard chase, and you have to know when to stop chasing, but because I'm also solo, I need to isolate as much as humanly possible. And I do hear there's a fight. I know you don't have audio, but there is a fight happening on the right, so I'd rather get this person down as a solo. But if I was with a squad, I would let this person go and then go fight. But I'd rather get this person out, because then at least I know the team up above is a potential 1v1, or I can go for that afterwards. But this Valkyrie gave me a really hard time. Now, this actually turns out to be a positive, because then I can reset and flank behind here. And at least I know that squad is out. I don't have to deal with that Valkyrie later. So there is a difference between playing solo versus playing with a squad, because if I was playing with a squad, I would not make that decision to drop down. I just knew that I had the advantage and I needed to get them out so I don't have to deal with them later. Which is a constant thought process. You have to kind of weigh the pros and cons when you're playing solo and decide, is this fight worth it, and do I push by myself? And the decision. So this is literally a hard 1v1, and I instantly retreat, because even if I were to win that, the other teammate would jump down. This guy, wow, I forgot he did that. He just full sends me for some reason, and now I have height above him, and then I should take him out, and I do, luckily. So that's a good use of positioning, taking height. The guy made a major mistake. Realize that me staying up top is a mistake. Me taking that 1v1 aggressively was a mistake. His mistake was dropping down and thinking, you know, when you put yourself, and you're going to see it later, I put some footage where I made a mistake just going for the hard 1v1. You don't always want to go for a hard 1v1. You want to preserve your health pool as much as possible. This is a tip for squads and for solo. Major tip. And I do this again. It's not a smart move, but luckily it just pans out and it does work. Because I do get some positioning and I do have an angle here, and at least he's flush, and then I can reset and reassess. So constantly, even if you get a knock, you can either push forward or reassess and try to see if you can catch somebody out who's making a mistake. But now I know that I have about, 150 HP. That guy is flush, so even if I knock him, there's going to be one more to deal with. So the best thing I can do is top off so I can try to isolate and push forward. So this person does decide to res, so I go for that. And there's one knock, and then I had to back up and reassess again. There's always a constant reassessing. And if you can guarantee yourself the win. Guarantee yourself the win, major tip, by your health deficit. How much health do they have? What armor type do they have? And what positioning do you have? And if you make those informed decisions, just like that, boom, you'll clutch out the fight. And there's that dub. Okay, now let's continue on with this clip. I actually don't remember what happened in this clip specifically. I think this was a squad wipe, and I made the mistake of getting thirded right after. And you can clearly see I'm dropping quite hot. And I think I get, oh, you know what? Okay, this is the reason I chose this clip. I remember this one now, is that I am stuck between, I think, 4 or 5 different teams. And this is where the situation I decided to take was height, but because I'm just absolutely surrounded and I couldn't isolate anybody, I just needed to get out and reposition. Even though I had ultimate height, the problem was that everyone was just catching me out, and that made it incredibly difficult to do much of anything, unfortunately. So when we look at this up height, there is a team on the left and there's also a team on the right, and I snagged some very nice shots, but the problem is if I drop anywhere, then I'm pretty much going to get caught out. The only thing I'm praying for is that I can get a knock here, but everyone shows up and fights, and so I lose this. I do not win this. I can't clutch it out. There's just too many teams around me that no matter what I did, I get scanned on the left and you're just caught out. Now, these situations are going to happen, especially when you're solo or when you're a squad. So I get 112. I could drop on this. I want to see if I can secure it, and I whiff. So some of this is going to rely on you just securing the last bit of damage, and I just couldn't get it, and this happened over and over again for me. And don't get down about this. It doesn't, like, I've practiced a lot. I put a lot of time in and hours, and I still run into these situations where you will miss, and those shots can be game-changing. You saw 112 damage there, and the major tip I can provide is just keep trying to go for the better positioning and the better angle, and everyone is picking on me. So there's two things I could have done here. I could have repositioned and got out and tried to flank from a different angle, or just gone to zone and waited for them to rotate in. Not the most fun approach, or I could stop picking. Everyone always wants to shoot, but the problem is that the more you shoot, the more everyone is going to put pressure on you. Because I'm holding such a dominant spot, they do not know that I'm solo up here. They think I'm part of the squad from the other side, because based on the numbers, they're looking at it, maybe they didn't pick up everybody, they think I'm part of this overall squad. But then I'm getting shot, so they're confused. Everyone right now is confused, but all they're doing is putting pressure, because the person laying out the damage right now is me from above, and there's a Bloodhound scan. And they see us fighting, but they don't have the information. And so that's incredibly confusing. So they're trying to get me off height because they know I'm dealing a lot of damage, but you're putting a lot of focus on yourself. So remember when you're solo queuing or when you're with a squad, and I use this clip because remember that if you're putting a lot of pressure, everyone is going to say, get the guy up top, right? Which is what they do. They push me, and it's going to lead to my downfall here, and I do not survive this because I'm putting a lot of pressure. And so the person you always want to get out, imagine you're playing Super Smash Bros. Melee or any of the Super Smash Brothers games, and you dogpile on the person who's doing the best because he's got the most amount of lives left, so you're going to make sure to get him lower or them out of the game, right? Just kind of how it works. We're going to have a bonus clip at the end here, so this is another Horizon one. Let's skip a little forward. I dropped hot. I don't think this one went well. So what happened here in this clip, and this is why I left this one in, is I decide to push in. And whenever I do push in, I realize that I think they're fighting, but this is a full Pred squad that I ran into that I just get absolutely decimated. I think I have the advantage, and I land my shot. I see him, I hit him for 70, but I get hit 100% by all wingman shots, and it just doesn't work out, right? Just kind of the unfortunate reality that you run into, that even if you get the jump or think you have the jump, you're just not going to win it, and that's just what's going to happen, you know? So even if you, in this last clip that I have here, is where I made a mistake. It was a really good clip for a 1v3, but it could have gone a lot better. So let's break that down. Let's talk about this. So I know there's a team here, and I'm trying to isolate them as much as possible. Remember, you're also gauging their skill level, because if you get absolutely shredded, then you know that a team is very coordinated. And sometimes you don't have that information. It's why I left that other clip there, is where I ran up thinking I had a jump on them, and I just get absolutely shredded, and that just sucks. Like, there's no way you can predict that. How do you know that your footsteps are loud enough for them to hear that they're not fighting and that they turn and shoot you? You don't know. There's no way you can know. So sometimes it's just known as a gamble, and so you have to assess consistently to. And notice what I'm doing here. I don't stay in the same spot. You're constantly taking different angles. So I took a different angle here, somewhere where they didn't expect, which is the beauty of Horizon. And I have a whole different angle, and I crack quite a few of them. They're all flush, so I can definitely push on this because I have the pressure. But they are putting a lot of holding. They're holding a whole lot, so I have to find a weak spot and a way to get in. I know if I zip up, then I'm going to go into a clear 1v1, which is a mistake I make in just a minute, which is why I left this clip here. I want to kind of break this down. So at this point, I know they've full healed, but I got to find a weak spot again. I probably shouldn't have thrown the thermite. Maybe if I broke down the door and punched it down, that could have been better. I get the stick, which is a massive move here. He runs at me, which is pretty big brain, actually. And the other guy gets hit by the nade. I go for the armor swap. And at this point, once they throw the nades, I decide to play aggro. And the reason I played aggro here is that I knew if I were to isolate them and I can get one down, then I can reset, which is what I do. What I should have done here, and this is the biggest mistake I could have done, I needed to wait for the res. I only got one cell up thinking that this was a mistake. I pushed up and I went for a 1v1 and I didn't know their gun situation and it caused me the loss. That's just the unfortunate side of the encounters. I needed to wait for one, the res. If I heard the res and I know that he's in a moment or they are in a moment of a weak spot, and that's whenever I can push. Or I need to take an angle, or 3, I need to top off my armors because I didn't know what armor he had in that scenario. He could have leveled it up. He could have gotten a bat off. It could have been at blue at that moment. I don't know unless I heard the audio cue, which there's a lot going on and sometimes you don't catch that. So let's talk about a bonus clip here. Bonus one at the end. Okay, so this is a bonus clip. This is going to be in a future video. So what you see on the upper left-hand corner is a product I've been using called FocusCalm, where it reads your brain waves, whether you are in a state of stress, or they call it active, or you're neutral. And the reason this is a kind of an Easter egg, because in a future video that I want to do this coming week, is showcasing how much we're thinking or whether I'm in a flow state or not. Now, the interesting part when you're doing solos, you are constantly thinking and assessing, and you kind of have to... That's a hard thing about this, is that you're in a state of stress because you don't have anyone to help you by yourself and you have one life. So I hit neutral and I'm constantly stressed here. But it makes you think, what is the potential if I wasn't stressed and if I just stayed in neutral? And it never goes blue, but when it goes blue, and I've been practicing with this more to get more into a flow state. So again, a bit of a little sneak peek of what's to come, especially what I want to do. And if you guys like this, don't forget to leave a like, because I love to do more of these solo queue videos, break down thought process and how I improve and what I learned from it. Because I'm learning a whole lot. I used to solo queue quite a bit early on, but I've kind of lost a little bit of touch with it, which is why I'm doing it again. And I get the knock. So when I get the knock, that's a clear sign to push. At least I know even if both of them are there that I push. But all these guys are really separate for some reason. And it really leans into me being able to capitalize on this. So at least I'm in a state of calm for now. I need to finish him. The reason I finish him is I don't want the pressure of the res to bait me out. So as a solo, that's why you want to secure those kills. So now I'm in a state of active, I guess you call it stress. And I don't land any damage, but I do only know that it's one so far. So I decided to take height, which is the best positioning that you can grab. And they do have really good armors, but at least I got the Kraken. I'm going to go for this because I see he's running. This is why sometimes you always shouldn't run. I think he could have just done more damage and held me out and wait for his teammate to come. And then the other teammate does come, and so I'm in an active state of thinking. I'm trying to loot as fast as possible when I could have been a lot more calm. I know this is actually one of the first times that I did solo queue, but it actually turns out into a pretty decent clip. So looking at this. So you could tell that I'm looking for them, and that's... I just feel like they're nearby and I don't know where they're at. And I hear him and I finally do, and that's when I decided to take height. I don't know how he didn't hear me, but now he's flush and I get a nice little clean clip here for the headshot for the ending. So very nice, not too bad. I love that. That was a nice little clip and a nice little preview of what's to come. So don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hopefully this video was helpful. Doing this, I still learned a lot going through my gameplay. Hopefully this helps you in analyzing your gameplay and what you can do to improve. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.